There are dozens of blank spots on US maps, places that look like nothing. No cities, no rivers, no landmarks, just space, just emptiness. But in Lincoln County, Nevada, there's one such spot that cartographers keep trying to blur out, because even if you draw nothing there, someone will still go looking. Locals call it the Knot. Geographically, it's an empty space, about 30 kilometers off Highway 93. But if you turn off the main road and follow the dirt track after a few miles, things begin to change. The ground beneath your feet becomes paved. Old pavement, cracked, faded, scarred with tire marks, as if someone drove through just days ago. But the map still shows nothing. And it's not just one road. There are 47 of them. Each one starts in a different spot. Each leads to the same destination. You won't find it on Google Maps, not on OpenStreetMap, not in any land registry. But in the old archives of Lincoln County, it's listed as Parcel 47A. That's where the house stands. 2 stories. Wooden. Faded siding. A heavy overhanging attic. A house that, officially, was never built. And that's only the beginning. In 1961, according to church records, a family moved into the house. The Hoffmans. A mother, a father, and 2 children. No criminal records. No signs of cult activity. Neighbors, those few who lived near the area, said nothing seemed wrong. But one day, the family was gone. Vanished. No signs of struggle. No bodies. No furniture. Just a meal still on the table. And a radio, stuck on a frequency filled with white noise. That alone would be strange. But there's something worse. No one knew them. No school files. No driver's licenses. No one in Nevada, or anywhere, could confirm the Hoffmans ever existed. Photos found in the house showed the family. But the backs weren't labeled with names. They were marked with math equations. No dates, no writing, just numbers. Later, in the basement, someone found a box. Inside, an 8mm film reel. It showed a man and a woman, faces obscured, drawing something on the floor. In the background, you can hear distant train horns, even though the nearest railroad is 50 miles away. A voice on the tape, distorted, repeats a single phrase. They are not in the house. They are the road. After that, people started avoiding Parcel 47A. The roads leading there changed, visibly, year by year. Pavement appeared where there was none. GPS stopped working. Car odometers recorded miles that were never traveled. Some tried to count the roads. No matter how they started, there were always 47, and all of them led to the same place. And that place was calling. When you begin searching for information about the house at the end of the 47 roads, you encounter a strange paradox. The deeper you dig, the less there is to find. I filed a request with Nevada's Bureau of Structural Records, including coordinates for what's known as Parcel 47A. 3 weeks later, I got a formal reply. No such structure exists. This land has never been registered as private property. That would be the end of the story, if not for one thing. A satellite image taken by a private mapping company in 1998 clearly shows the house. It's there. Standing, casting a shadow, its windows reflecting light. There's even a car parked along one of the roads leading to it. This was captured independently, yet in state records from the same year, there's nothing. As if the image was erased, or never archived at all. Later, I was contacted by a man who introduced himself as Michael Graves. He claimed that in 1983, his brother and a group of friends went searching for the place where the Hoffman family supposedly vanished. Only one of them returned, and he never spoke again. Not a word. He was eventually moved to a private clinic in Colorado, where he still lives. In complete silence. Weeks after our conversation, Graves sent me a strange photo. It showed a narrow corridor shot from the floor. The walls were wooden, cracked, aged. The doors had no handles. And at the far end was a mirror. But the reflection wasn't of the hallway. It showed something else. It was faint, almost unreadable. But zoomed in, the reflection revealed a forest. And beyond the trees, the shape of a house that wasn't visible in the actual photo. Experts confirmed. The image was authentic, no editing. But no one could explain how such a reflection was even possible. I reached out to historians, local journalists, former cartographers. Most didn't respond. A few did, but only to say, "Leave it alone." One person mailed my request back, covered in red ink. Across the top, he'd written, "It's not a house, it's a mechanism." Eventually, I got access to the county archives. Among burned files and discarded notes, I found a page from a journal. No name, no date. Just one final line. Each road isn't a path to the house. It's part of it. The house lives inside them. It feeds on direction. That was the first suggestion that the house might not be a house at all. That it was never meant to be a structure. That maybe the Hoffman family didn't just disappear. Maybe they became part of something that had been growing out there for a very long time. Before Parcel 47A became a whisper, before it was marked by silence and missing names, it was just dust. A barren stretch between dead ravine and an unnamed plateau. Marked on 1860s maps only as Zone of Unstable Ground. No farms, no roads, no people. Until 1872. That year, the first road was built, Road Number 1, and it had a purpose. According to a single county document, it led to a house registered as a temporary medical facility. The owner? Dr. Algernon Vale, a private physician from Massachusetts, who, for reasons unknown, relocated to Nevada. But here's the strange part. No official record of the house, no blueprints, no photos, no signature from Vale himself. Just stories, letters, and rumors. The house was built in 3 days. Patients never left. At night, it made a sound, like chains dragging through the walls. The first documented incident happened just weeks later. Surveyor Henry Talbot and his team were mapping the road. They were expected to finish in a week. But on the 6th day, one of his assistants came back alone, barefoot, covered in shallow cuts, completely silent. A month later, he was found dead in his hotel. Above the bed, scratched into the wall, was a single line. I couldn't close the door. It was inside me. After that, locals stopped calling it Road Number 1. They called it the Bloodline. Attempts to block it off failed. Fences burned overnight. Gravel laid across the path vanished by morning. And then something even stranger. Every map between 1873 and 1900 shows Road Number 1 in a slightly different place. Shifted, tilted, moved, as if the road itself refused to stay still. One year it veers left, another year to the right. But always pointing to the same place. I found one photograph, taken in 1884, by a road technician named John Weston. It shows a dirt road cutting through empty land. But zoom in, and you'll see something odd. Wooden signs along the road, all marked with the same symbol, a circle, and 7 lines stretching outward. That symbol has never been seen anywhere else in Nevada's history. No tribe, no family crest, no known meaning. The last known sighting of Dr. Vale happened in 1876. A witness claimed he stood at the entrance to the house, wearing a long black coat, his back turned to the road, and behind him, a building that shouldn't exist. Too tall, the witness said. The roof disappeared into the sky, and then it was gone. The house, the doctor, all of it. But the road stayed. Then came Road 2, then Road 3, then Road 4, until eventually there were 47, each one still pointing to something. Something that refuses to be erased. Something that feeds on direction. In the Yuma County archives, between faded blueprints and court case fragments, there's a thin, almost crumbling dossier. On the cover, only a number. 13. No name. No date. Just 13. Inside is a project. One that, according to the scribbled notes, should have never been built. Road number 13 first appeared in planning documents in 1901. Its creator was listed as Harvey Burton, an engineer from the Boston Polytechnic Institute, assigned west as part of a federal infrastructure expansion. His task? Connect logging settlements scattered across the plateau to the nearest transport hubs. He was given the land between roads 12 and 14, an empty stretch the locals called the Ash Plain. Burton's first journal entries are disturbing. No schematics, no measurements, just lines like, "They're already here. Every evening I hear their footsteps in the dry grass. Even the sand tries to hide. The ground itself is afraid." At first, people dismissed this as stress, isolation, maybe fever. But then, contractors started quitting. One by one. Out of 38 men who began work, only 7 remained. The rest? Gone. No explanation. Or later diagnosed, with sudden and complete mental collapse. And yet somehow, Road 13 was finished in just 19 days. No records of supply routes, no logbooks for gravel, timber, or tar. No witness accounts of vehicles arriving. It was just there, laid out across the desert. Solid. Paved. Real. A small newspaper clipping from that year mentions Burton being seen stumbling out of the desert. Barefoot, hands covered in dried blood. He was admitted to a private clinic. Silent. Staring. When finally questioned, he only whispered one thing. "I didn't build it. I just showed it where to lie down." 3 days later, he vanished. No break-in. No footprints. His room locked from the inside. Bed untouched. Clothes folded. No sign that anyone had ever stayed there. But the story doesn't end there. In 1927, 26 years later, a man was detained near the southern edge of Yuma. He was wearing dust-covered clothes from another century. He didn't speak. At all. But in his pocket, a compass that crumbled to dust when touched, and a torn note that read, "You can't leave until you place the last one." Fingerprints were taken. Matched. Perfectly. To Harvey Burton. No signs of aging. Same man. Within 24 hours, he vanished again, this time from a locked holding cell. Security footage? Just static. No sound. No movement. Only white noise. Since then, Road 13 is marked as closed. Barriers are up. Official maps listed as inactive. But satellite images still show it. Long, winding, cutting through the ash plain like a scar. And sometimes there are vehicles on it. 1, maybe 2 each month. They drive in and never come back out. I tried tracing one of the license plates, an SUV, registered in Idaho. According to state records, it was scrapped. In 1993. So how did it end up on a road that shouldn't exist in 2023? Road number 27 officially doesn't exist. It's missing from topographic maps, archival blueprints, and federal transportation records. Yet since the 1960s, it appears regularly in aerial photographs, every time in a different location. In 1963, private pilots flying over Montana reported an unexplained gray streak cutting through a protected valley where, according to all records, no construction had taken place. Weeks later, the streak vanished, leaving behind only a scorched strip of earth. In 1978, authorities in Sandoval County, New Mexico, documented an emergency landing of a small plane. The pilot claimed he had been flying along a route that didn't exist on any map. Radio recordings from the incident capture him whispering, "I see the signs. 27. They change direction as I fly. This road, it's alive. What's especially chilling, all images of Road 27 from different decades share one feature. Its endpoint leads to a location where, in 1889, stood a house, the so-called House at the 47 Roads. No other address repeats. This house appeared in newspapers in the late 19th century. They wrote about a couple, the Rowans, settlers, who built an estate at a crossroads. But later, across states and years, the house seemed to reappear, with the same name and the same appearance. Children in Mississippi drew it in 1932. A trucker in Utah described it in 1991. A photo of it was found on an abandoned tourist camera in Arizona, 2007. Studies of GPS signals from devices lost near Road 27 sightings revealed a strange pattern. Right before disappearing, all signals made a sudden leap, jumping hundreds of kilometers in milliseconds, then stopped forever. Some researchers believe Road 27 isn't a physical thing. They say it's a shifting anomaly, a route that doesn't lead somewhere, but pulls you in. Data suggests this road isn't built, it activates. And each time, closer to the house at the 47 Roads. There is one more detail, rarely mentioned. In every photo of Road 27, even the oldest, a figure stands at the roadside, human-shaped, black, elongated. It never moves, never turns. But the angle of its shadow always points toward the Rowan house. In the archives of Buchanan County, Missouri, there is a single detailed record about a house referred to in the protocols as Object Number 47R. The document is dated 1894 and contains a report by Sheriff Lemuel Hawkins, a man whose name appears nowhere else except in this file. His report begins simply, "The house is not old. It looks as if it was just built, but the wood inside is already rotten." Hawkins arrived after a series of strange disappearances in the border area between Missouri and Kansas. Several farm residents claimed they heard the sound of a train at night, although there were no railways in the area. Later, someone spotted lights in the woods, and in the morning, footprints of children leading nowhere. Within a week, 3 children vanished. The last was 10-year-old Lily Martin, who went searching for her brother and never returned. When the sheriff and 2 deputies found the house, it stood right at the crossing of 47 forest trails. That number, Hawkins wrote, was carved into every door inside. The house seemed empty, but inside, the temperature was below freezing. In the middle of July. The floors creaked, though no one moved. There were no paintings on the walls, only numbers scratched with fingernails. Each room had a different number. As later investigation showed, those numbers matched missing persons case files from the county's last 70 years. Some of the numbers corresponded to disappearances that had not yet happened. In the attic, Hawkins found a sealed hatch. Next to it lay a wooden doll, styled like a priest. Its face was coated in wax, and on its chest, a brass plaque was engraved with the phrase, "Where there is no exit, the path arrives." Deciding to open the hatch, Hawkins and his deputies discovered a basement deeper than the house's structure should allow. Its walls were not made of stone, but of rough marble, covered with inscriptions in an unknown language. Beneath was a well, and inside it, a staircase leading even deeper. There are no records in the report about what they found below. The text ends abruptly, and the last line, written in uneven handwriting, reads, "They did not die. They simply stepped aside." 3 days later, all 3 men, the sheriff and his deputies, were found 200 miles away, barefoot, in a state of complete amnesia. One of them later took his own life, scratching the number 27 into the floor of his cell. The house disappeared a week later. In its place remained an oval depression where machinery failed and radio signals cut out. Geologists recorded a drop in electromagnetic background radiation similar to what occurs near lightning strikes. And there was something else, On one of the stone slabs found in the soil, an emblem was carved, resembling a cult symbol, an eye with intersecting roads, the same symbol that was later spotted in other disappearing settlements. It was then that the hypothesis first emerged. The house at the 47 roads is not a building. It is a manifestation, a temporary physical form of some mechanism connected to moving or removing people from reality. And road number 27, leading to it, is a kind of hook that pulls in those caught on the line. But where does this line lead? To answer, researchers tried tracing the geometry of all recorded appearances of Road 27 over the last 100 years. The result was unexpected. The points formed a spiral, the center of which was not in Missouri nor Montana, but in the heart of a dead town in Nebraska, a town that officially has the record anywhere. The first recorded appearance of road number 27 dates back to 1861, almost 30 years before the events in Missouri. At that time, it wasn't yet called by that name. It was mentioned simply as a dusty trail through a ravine, but in the diaries and complaints of local residents, it consistently appeared with one strange detail. All sound vanished along it. Footsteps, birdsong, even the wind. Everything fell silent the moment someone stepped onto the path. Back then, in Richardson County, Nebraska, lived a settler family, Jonas and Everly March and their 4 children. They ran an ordinary farm, blending in with the other settlers, until the day a pastor from a neighboring village arrived. He was searching for his parishioners, the Little family, who had disappeared 2 days earlier after taking a walk along the northern slope, where that very road passed. According to the pastor, the March family was strangely calm. Jonas insisted he had never seen the Littles, but in the fireplace they found charred scraps of clothing matching descriptions of the missing family. Though this was not proof, the pastor grew suspicious and notified the county authorities. When the officials arrived to search the farm, it was already deserted. The March house stood wide open. Inside, there was no sign of struggle, no bodies, only ash stains arranged in a spiral pattern and a large black doll sitting on the bed in the children's room. Its face was coated with lacquer, and on its chest hung a wooden plaque that read, "Route number 27 begins here." It would later become known that such dolls had been found in other anomalous locations, always appearing before or after people vanished. Federal officials tried to erase the March case from public archives, citing it as a family tragedy and false accusations. However, a year later, one investigator, a young surveyor named Garrett Strong, secretly copied his observations and passed them to a private archive. He claimed the March house had an unusual architecture, with 9 corners and a foundation made of stone not found in the region. He also discovered a basement that, according to the plans, should not have existed. Strong wrote, "It wasn't a house, but a mechanism. Its walls did not protect from the outside world. They contained what was inside." I believe Jonas March was not an architect. He was a guardian. The March family's trail goes cold after that. They were never found in other states or settler registries. No descendants have ever been discovered. The only trace left behind was the spiral pattern and the number 27, burned into the back wall of a barn that locals set on fire in 1863. This very spot would later become the center of the geometric spiral connecting all the appearances of the house at the 47 roads. Coincidence? Or a deliberate point of origin? But if the Marches were truly the first to build such a dwelling, another question arises. How did they know how? The answer might be hidden in a book they found, the only one to survive the fire. A book bound in leather, with no title, filled with texts written in an unknown alphabet. A book later seen by another man, Professor Mercer, which led to his disappearance in 1911. In January 1910, Nearly half a century after the disappearance of the March family, Professor Charles Mercer, a linguist and comparative mythology expert, received an unusual artifact as a gift. He did not know exactly where the scroll had come from. The accompanying letter contained only, "You study ancient languages. This one is older than all. Do not attempt to read it aloud." The letter was unsigned, and the sender's address was absent. But the contents, a small leather-bound book with faded symbols on the cover, astonished the professor. He devoted the next 15 months of his life to it, at first out of academic interest, then obsessively. Mercer made dozens of copies of the symbols, comparing them to Sumerian, Etruscan, even Maya petroglyphs, but the language resisted all attempts at decipherment. However, in February 1911, he announced to his students that he had finally found the logic. After that, something strange began. Colleagues noted that Mercer started talking to himself. He spent nights in his office, where metallic sounds, like someone scratching the floor or walls, were increasingly heard. One student, visiting him one evening, claimed the room smelled sharply of soot and chalk, and the books on the shelves were arranged in the shape of an 8-pointed star. In the center lay that very book. A week later, the professor disappeared. His apartment was found open, and in the bedroom, a pentagram was carved directly into the parquet floor. At its center stood a small box made of the same material as the book's cover. Inside was a spiral carved into the underside of the lid. The book was gone. The only remaining evidence was a note written on the back of a page from a university journal. It contained just 3 sentences. "They are not dead. They are simply not here. The house is not a place, but a consent." This note later came into the hands of Jane Sullivan, a specialist in religious cults, who noticed the phrasing matched records of a Masonic order in New Orleans in the 1850s. But more on that later. The most important fact: Mercer's disappearance coincided with a sudden fire at the university archive, where his drafts, notes, and photocopies of the book were stored. The fire destroyed everything, except one page, accidentally left with his assistant. On it was a diagram resembling a plan, not of a building, but a sequence of actions, steps, circles, phrases, as if someone was trying to construct a ritual. At the center of the page was a familiar symbol, 47, with a bold dot beneath the number, and below it, the phrase, "The beginning has no address. It comes when you open the door." Mercer was never found. But 6 months after his disappearance, a campus security guard claimed to have seen a man dressed in black walking across the university grounds, carrying a doll, an exact replica of the one once found in the March house. No cameras recorded anything, but a strange, burnt, straight mark, like a knife's cut, remained on the stone pathway. The story of the nameless book remained a closed case. But it is believed by some that this book was the origin of an informal community later called the Loop. People obsessed with symbols, disappearing roads, and the phenomenon of 47. In September 1928, an event occurred in Emery County, Utah, which was never officially reported in any newspaper. 3 highway patrol officers, Thomas Mason, Howard Randall, and James Caldwell, were dispatched to investigate a mysterious structure that, according to local farmers, had not existed a week prior. It appeared at the intersection of Route 27 and an old dirt road leading to an abandoned tunnel. The building looked like a 2-story house with columns and a tiled roof. Its walls had a strange color, gray-green like faded bronze. The strangest thing was that inside, compasses did not work. This was the first recorded incident where geomagnetic instruments failed to function. Vehicle instruments showed the compass needle spinning in circles, as if the car were standing on a pole. The patrol entered the building at 3:14 p.m. Communications were lost immediately. The radio captured only background noise, resembling a voice distorted by water. 4 hours later, only one man returned, James Caldwell. He was found sitting on the roadside, in shock, with his hands tightly pressed to his ears, as if trying to block out some sound. He did not speak for nearly 2 days. When he finally did, he wrote only one word: voices. Psychiatrists diagnosed him with acute shock caused by isolation or a traumatic episode. But no trace of Mason or Randall was ever found. The house they had entered had disappeared, leaving only a perfectly burned circle in the dry earth, 22 meters in diameter. The soil inside this circle had turned glassy, like after a lightning strike. Later, investigators described the interior layout of the house as logically impossible. Rooms flowed into each other without doors. Some staircases led upward, but returned downward, and windows did not look outside but into other rooms. The floor, ceiling, and walls swapped places. The entire structure was closed in on itself, as if built not by the laws of physics, but by the rules of a kaleidoscope. On one section of the wall, the patrol noticed an indented symbol. It was the number 47, stretched vertically like a column and enclosed within an octagon. None of the officers knew what it meant. Later, architectural experts noted that the building's layout matched a symbolic blueprint found in Masonic archives in Baltimore, dated 1789. The blueprint included a notation: "The house that will not let out those who have spoken with it." James Caldwell, the sole survivor, disappeared 7 months after the incident. His disappearance was equally strange. He vanished directly from a clinic room in Seattle. No cameras recorded any movement, but in the corner of his room was a chalk-drawn 8-pointed star, exactly like the one in Professor Mercer's notes. From that moment on, police ceased sending personnel to that part of the county. The area was officially closed, and the highway was rerouted. Locals still avoid the spot to this day, calling it the ring that forgets you. Over the past 3 months, we have studied dozens of documents, testimonies, and fragments of memory related to the house on 47 roads. We trace the chain from the disappearance of the March family to Patrolman Caldwell, from Mercer's diary to the Masonic Hall's blueprint. All these points now connect into a disturbing system, coherent, yet monstrous in meaning. What if the house is not unique? What if it is just one projection of a larger mechanism? A structure based on geometry, language, and human perception. What we called an anomaly is not a malfunction. It is a function. We found 3 recorded cases of similar buildings. In 1846, a mansion in Georgia that vanished from maps after a sudden flood. In 1892, a hotel in Illinois where 17 people disappeared without a trace in one night. The sole survivor said, "The room had no walls." In 1907, a chapel in Colorado, rebuilt by monks according to a voice heard in their dreams. None survived. In all cases, one symbol repeats: the 8-pointed star, often combined with the number 47 or its multiples. Comparing Mercer's records with a fresco reconstruction from the March house revealed another pattern. The room layout in the house perfectly matches the sequence of a formal magical diagram from early Rosicrucian times. This means these structures were designed not by humans, but according to the law of spiritual model construction. Who is the author? Hatcher, before his death, in one of his last notes, referred to a manuscript presumably found in North Carolina. Its author is unknown. But it says, there are 9 geometries. The first, earth. The second, blood. The third, order. Beyond the 9th begins the exit. Only he who enters the 8th door will understand why the houses were built. This concept, the 9 geometries, also appears in the records of the sect, the Repository of Speech, active in early 19th century Tennessee. Their idea was that speech is not a means of communication, but a mechanism for activating space. Silent houses, houses where no one spoke, became pure, and true geometry manifested inside them. The March family were probably part of this sect, or its descendants. Their house was built exactly according to ancient schemes, but who completed the cycle remains unknown. Some researchers suggest the house on 47 Roads is not a place, but a tool. It does not capture people. It sorts them, as if the house itself chooses whom it is ready to show the eighth door and whom to erase. The last fragment found in the ruins of the former house was a plaque with the inscription, "Do not try to leave. If you are here, you are already inside." The story is over, but if you look broader, everything is just beginning. Because in the US, there are over 300 registered disappearances matching the pattern of non-localized structures. And almost every case involves one of the same symbols: a star, a number, or the phrase, "he spoke, then fell silent."